In this video, I'm going to be sharing 10 things that I've learned after over 100 days of vibe coding an app until I make $1 million. For the past several months, I have been building in public vibe coding an app with the goal of making $1 million. And I have to say, it's pretty cool to be able to reflect on this journey. You can see here's just the YouTube playlist, and to be able to scroll down here and see all of these streams and just the hours and hours and hours that have gone into building what we've built in the last 112 days. It really is incredible. And you can go back here and now see, where this journey started. And in the last 112 days, we've been able to grow our community to 20,677 subscribers, and the BridgeMind Discord community now has over 2,000 members. Our goals for 2026 were to hit 10,000 on YouTube and 1,000 in the Discord, and we more than doubled it on both platforms. So shout out to you guys. Thank you for all the support. If you haven't already joined the BridgeMind community, this is now inherently the fastest growing vibe coding community on the internet. It's full of real builders that are on the cutting edge of the AI revolution, adopting the most up-to-date workflows with agentic coding and with vibe coding, which are interchangeable. But if you have not already joined this community, make sure you do so. In 2026, we are going to be doing great things. This is going to be the place to be in 2026. And with that being said, I'm just going to ask you that you like this video, show your support for the journey so far. And with that being said, let's get right into the video. Number 10 on this list is the idea of being able to adapt quickly. If we go back to day one, I just want to show you guys this real quick. Look at this. So here is the day one, right? And you can see down here that I was using Cursor at the time. And I want to draw your attention right here. You can see which tool I was using. I was using Cursor, and I was also using Claude for Sonnet. And it's incredible to be able to look back at this, because in this time period, the amount of tools and models that have actually been released in the past 112 days is remarkable. I was using Claude for Sonnet Max inside of Cursor at the very start of this journey, but in the process of this journey, we were receiving GPT-5, GPT-5 Codex. Codex came out, and our workflow adapted over this period. I can go to, let's go out here and let's go back to, let's say, I can probably just choose, look at this. You can see that, I moved from Cursor, I was using Cursor with Claude for Sonnet to using, I totally transitioned to, let's see if I can go to the start here and find what I was using on this day. I know that I was using Codex at the time, but look at this. So you can see here that now you can see that, hey, I switched from using Cursor with Claude for Sonnet Max to a complete GPT-5 Codex workflow where I started launching multiple agents at the same time. And you can see that here, my workflow adapted based on both the models that were the best at the time, as well as the end tools that we were using, right? Because when Codex came out, especially GPT-5 Codex, it was a very good tool, and it was probably the best tool at the time. But now things have even evolved since then, and I've had to adapt again. And if we go to any of my most recent streams, I'm using a completely different workflow. If we go back here, you can see that I'm using all Claude Code agents inside of Warp to be able to manage agentic panes, and I'm using Claude Opus 4.5. Now, I still am using Cursor, but for different purposes. I'm using it for the end, the browser tool, or Gemini 3 Pro access, different things like that. But my point with this is that something that I've learned, number 10, is that you have to be able to adapt, because this field is moving incredibly quickly, and you can't stick with one specific workflow. You have to be involved in a community, and you have to learn what other people are doing and what's working for other people, and try to figure out how you can adapt that to your workflow, or how you can build new workflows that work for you. And that is definitely a huge thing that I've learned, that you have to adapt quickly. Number 9 on the list of things that I've learned is this idea that there is not a single right way of doing something, right? There is a whole range of different workflows. There's a whole different range of processes. And I think that what we're seeing in this series is that, hey, You just have to be able to adapt quickly, and you have to be open to changing your workflow and not getting glued to, let's say, what people are saying on the internet, because there is no right way. There's not one singular right tool. There is so many competitors in the vibe coding, agentic coding space, and there's not a singular correct tool that you should be using. For example, let's take anti-gravity, right? Anti-gravity is Google's IDE, and right now they are offering free AI use, right? That you can use it for free in different areas. It does have limits, but a lot of people are using that tool because it's right for them and their budget, right? So it makes sense. Now, for me, I use Claude Code with the Max 20x plan, and I use GPT-5 Pro or ChatGPT Pro, and I use Cursor Ultra. And my point with that is that you have to figure out what works for you in this space, and you can't get distracted by, for example, what other people are doing. Now, you have to pay attention to what other people are doing, but you can't just say, oh, because this person is doing it this way, this is the right way. There's a right way for you in whatever situation you're in and what project you're working on, right? So for example, hey, if I'm using an agent to be able to build some UI, in a lot of instances, it's smart to use Gemini 3 Pro because Gemini 3 Pro is good at UI. But you would also have an argument that, hey, Claude Opus 4.5 with the front-end design skill is better in some instances, right? So my point is that there is not a singular right way to be doing something. You just have to figure out the ways that in the strategies that work for you personally in your workflow and your project. So that's definitely something that I've learned, and that's been able to open me up to different workflows because it makes it so that I don't get glued to the workflow that I'm using, and that I'm a little bit more open to what other people are doing, because there's not one right way. There's a ton of different workflows. There's a ton of different ways that you can be doing this, and it's very important that you're open to different workflows and adopting new ways of doing things. Number 8 is this fact that building is the best way to learn. And I want to show you guys my GitHub and just share with you the amount of contributions that I've made in the last year and highlight the amount of contributions that I've made in the last couple of months while I've been on this journey. So you can see, hey, this journey has basically stemmed from, August to December, and you can see that I have basically been operating at about probably around a 95% hit rate in terms of days programmed. And what you have to do is everything is changing with AI, and what's changing is that instead of having to go get a CS degree to understand how to program, now, let's say that you have an idea. Now you can just start building your idea immediately, and AI is able to fill in a lot of the gaps that you may not understand. Now, what is important is that as you're going along, while you're building, that you are actually asking AI the questions that you need to understand in order to be able to manage and learn while you're building, right? So you need to understand, for example, I'll use one example. Yesterday I was building the ViewCreator MCP, and I had never built an MCP before, right? But I knew that, hey, if I just actually work on building this and I learn along the way, I'll learn how to build an MCP and I'll actually get it done, right? And we were able to get a ViewCreator MCP built and deployed yesterday in under 6 hours. And the point that I'm making here is that a lot of people have this idea that in order to be able to do something, that you have to have a degree or you have to have certifications. That is not the case anymore. With AI, you can just immediately start building, and as you're going along, you can be learning from the AI as the AI is building the system, so that you can then put the guardrails in place, and so that you have the understanding, so that you have the ability to orchestrate the agents correctly. So the best way to learn now in 2025 and heading into 2026 is by building, and that's one incredibly important thing that I've learned in this journey so far. Another thing that I've learned in this journey is that progress is exponential. I think whenever people are starting on something new, whether it's a business or it's a project or they're just trying to learn, you start very early on, and I'll just draw a chart here, right? It's like, hey, let's say that you start, this is day 1 and this is day 100. A lot of people don't understand that they come into something and they expect that, hey, at the start, I'm just going to be making a ton of progress and it's going to look like this, right? it's not the case. What I've learned from this journey, and this goes for a variety of different things, right? This goes for the growth of the BridgeMind community. This goes for the growth of your revenue trajectory. This goes for your understanding personally, let's say, of your skills and your ability to build. And I think what it actually looks like is it's exponential. You know, you start something and it's like this, and it can then go like this. And I think that what people lose sight of is because they were anticipating it to go like this, they end up quitting because it's very difficult in this early stage because you're expecting to be here, but in reality you're here, right? So there's a misunderstanding that, hey, you know, people get into something and they realize, like, let's say, you know, a month into something, like, wow, this is harder than I anticipated or harder than I expected, and then they just quit and they give up because they don't truly understand the fact that progress is exponential. And when I say progress, again, I mean progress in a whole variety of different subjects: your abilities, your skills, the growth of your revenue, the growth of your product as a whole, your user base, your community, all these things. It's all exponential. And that's why on this channel and in this community, I talk so much about just showing up every day and giving it your all, because if you do that, that's how you make progress, and that progress is exponential. And that's what I've discovered in this journey, is that I remember, you know, when I first started, how hard it was to do X, right? And now I'll just be doing like 10X what I was accomplishing at the start of this journey, because it's all exponential now. If you go back to the start of this journey, you know, it's like you can even see, for example, like, hey, the GitHub contributions, you can see the growth of the channel, you can see the, you know, go back to day one, you can see like the progress of, hey, it was harder early on to stream for multiple hours in a row, right? You can see all the streams were very, very low in their length, and you can see that they didn't get many views, and you can see that there was no revenue. And at some point, you start to hit a threshold where you're like, okay, I can stream for longer now, I can work for longer, I can build more in less time, I can build the revenue faster, I now have, you know, all these things start compounding and compounding and compounding, and it comes from you just showing up every single day and giving it your absolute best, giving it your all. And that's one thing that I've learned on this journey that I wanted to share with you, is that progress is exponential. Another thing that I've learned in this journey is the fact that AI models are going to continue to get significantly better. And here's what I'm going to share with you. So at the start of this journey, you know, you can look at this here and you can see I basically listed the top frontier models, and you can see Gemini 3 Pro versus Gemini 2.5 Pro, 49 versus 62. Claude 4 Sonnet, if you remember, that was the first on day one. That's what we were using. Look at how this was doing in the coding index on artificial analysis. It was ranking at 45, and now it's at 60. And I think, to put this into perspective, that in the last 112 days that we've been doing this, the AI models, the fundamental driving force behind all the progress of what we've been building, has literally increased by X amount, right? And these AI models are going to get significantly better. And what you guys need to realize is that with the underlying understanding that these are going to get better, the skill that you need to learn is how to learn and use AI agents, and to be able to understand not how to use ChatGPT, but how to truly orchestrate agents to do your work for you in a way that will build and accomplish your dreams and goals. And you can see here, like, look at this. I mean, you're looking at a significant improvement in just a couple of months, and we can even go to OpenRouter too. And one thing I want to show you, and I talk about this often, but we can go to Opus 4.5 here, and this model, which was a significant improvement versus the Claude Opus 4.1 model, look at the price drop. It was a one-third decrease in cost from Opus 4.5 to Opus 4.1. I want to pull up another. Hold on, let's pull this up real quick. I'm going to pull up OpenRouter, and we're going to actually look at that Opus 4.1 model as well. So Opus 4.1, and what you guys are going to see here is, yeah, so Opus 4.1 was the old kind of like highly intelligent Claude Opus model, and you can even see now how slow this model is. It's literally 13 tokens per second, 24 tokens per second, and it was $15 and $75 respectively, and now it's $5 and $25. So the AI models are getting smarter, faster, and cheaper. And if you don't see this, if you haven't been involved in this space, I don't know what to tell you. If you think that AI is a bubble, if you think it's hyped up, I think that you're wrong. And I think that you're wrong because even in the past 112 days, the growth trajectory and the improvement of the intelligence of these models, of the speed, of the cost, of the end tools that are actually implementing them, right? They've gotten significantly better. And one thing that I've learned is that I do not expect this to slow down. If anything, I actually expect the growth rate in 2026 to increase. And I expect that now in the future, we'll look at Opus 4.5 and we'll laugh at it. We'll look at it as it will become a legacy model very, very quickly. And that's one incredibly important thing that I've learned and now understand is that these models are not going to stop getting better anytime soon. And if you understand these agentic workflows, if you understand how to utilize AI to do your bidding, you are going to be incredibly successful. So that is definitely one thing I've learned is that these AI models are going to get incredibly better. Another thing that I've learned in this journey so far is the fact that community is important. And something I want to draw your attention to is that the BridgeMind Discord community is now up to over 2,200 members. You can see 2,232 here. And something I want to touch on is the fact that I have learned more from the BridgeMind community and the people that are in this community who are incredibly intelligent and on the cutting edge of the AI revolution than you guys have learned from me. And I think that a lot of people, they get this incorrect. You know, they approach this and they say, hey, I'm the teacher and I'm teaching all of you how I do vibe coding and how I do agentic coding. But the reason that I started BridgeMind in large part is to build a community. And to build a community that's not centered around me, but that is centered around being a part of the AI revolution and truly being on the cutting edge of this technological revolution and building the future together. And this community has completely changed my perspective. And if I didn't have this community, I would not be in the place that I am today because the workflow that I use now is in large part has been taught to me by many people from the BridgeMind community. So for example, you know, I have conversations every day with people from the BridgeMind community, and I've learned, for example, Warp was suggested to me by Dan, and the multi-agent workflow that I use where I'm basically able to take one Claude Code instance and pass it off to 10 code-based analyst agents and then pass those off to 3 Agent B coder agents inside of one conversation. I learned that from Super Combo Gamer. So it's like, I'm just like, I have met people in this community that have genuinely helped me and helped me become a better agentic coder or a vibe coder. And that's incredibly important. I would not be in the same position that I am now if I did not have the BridgeMind community. And that is incredibly important because if you're just in like a black box and you're not paying attention to what other people are doing, if you're just focused on what you're doing, which is good in some situations, but not in this revolution because things are changing rapidly every single day. And I'm not kidding, being a part of the BridgeMind community, you know within 10 seconds if a new model just dropped from Anthropic and we're already implementing and testing it. And I don't think that there's any other vibe coding community on the internet that is doing that. And that is one thing that I've learned, that community is incredibly important, especially in this field. And I am so thankful for the BridgeMind community. So definitely a very, very important factor of this journey so far that I've learned. Another thing that I've learned in this journey so far is the fact that success is just an equation. And to me, success is time times effort to the power of consistency. And I see success as this equation because I think people, they look at success and they ask, okay, well, what is success, right? Success can take the form of a multitude of different things. Some people think that success is money. Some people think that success is freedom. Some people think success is fame. Some people think success is X, Y, Z, you name it, having all these things that people think success is. But what I've learned in this journey and what I believe in is that I think that success can be broken down as simply as an equation that if you follow it, you will achieve success. And again, success to me is time times effort to the power of consistency, because if you're putting in the time, if you're putting in the effort, and if you're consistent, you will be successful in whatever you're doing. And I think that it may end up looking different, right? You could have a goal and a mission and it could end up taking a completely different form, but if you are showing up and you're putting in the time, you're putting in the effort and putting in the consistency, those are the only three things that you need to worry about, and everything else is going to take care of itself. So just focus on those three things, and I do think that you will be successful. That's one incredibly important thing that I've learned. Another thing that I've learned while on this journey is that opportunities are revealed while you're in the arena. Now, if you guys are familiar, I've had this up on my wall since pretty much I've had this up on my wall since I was a teenager, and I've always put it in whatever office I was working in. And you guys have seen it up here now for a long time. And I believe that, and here's the man in the arena. If you're unfamiliar with this, it's a quote from Theodore Roosevelt. And basically, it says, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But he who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." And the reason that I talk about this speech and why I have it up on the wall is because opportunities are revealed in the arena, and you could go into something with one perspective and one understanding of the mission or the goal that you have, and it could take on a completely different form because of the opportunities that reveal themselves in the arena. So in my opinion, it is better for you to dare greatly and to take risks and to give it your all and to be in the arena, rather than being one of those cold and timid souls who never know victory or defeat. Because what I've found on this journey so far is that you may start something in one direction and end up going in a completely different direction. And the reason is not because you decided to give up and fail. Rather, you saw opportunities that were revealed to you while you were daring greatly and while you were in the arena. And that is one incredibly important thing that I've learned in this journey. The final and most important thing that I've learned on this journey so far is that agentic coding is the future. And I think that when we first started out, I would get so much hate about vibe coding. And vibe coding and agentic coding are completely interchangeable. I think that if there's anything that I've learned on this journey so far, the number one thing is that this is the future of software development. Agentic coding is the future, and it has been proven along this journey because we have built a very large, robust production application with over 2,000 users in just a couple of months' time. And we did it with a singular small team. And we did it incredibly quickly. I did things that I never knew that I could do before. And if you look at the evolution of this journey so far, and you go back and you look through how vibe coding or agentic coding has evolved, even from the start of this journey, you can see that this is obviously the future of software development. And I don't know what exactly it will look like 5 years from now, but I would be very surprised if people are writing any code at all. It is all going to be through agentic systems, and I believe now that agentic coding is the future. And if we take a look at, for example, my existing workflow, it's completely evolved. And the AI tools that I'm using have completely evolved. And for example, like now, hey, you have tools like Warp where, hey, I can just go here, I can launch a bunch of panes, and just like this, in under like 20 seconds, I'm just going to launch Claude, here, watch this. So Claude, and these agents are all now ready to do my work for me, and they're ready to take tasks. And this has evolved. I mean, when we first started, we were just working in when we first started this journey, I've been doing vibe coding and agentic coding for 3 years now since ChatGPT released, and it's evolved so quickly and to the point where it's become so powerful that it's obvious that this is the future of software development. And there are still going to be people that disagree with this, and there are going to be people that bring up the points of, hey, it still has issues here, here, and here. But the thing is that we cannot doubt this technological revolution, and we cannot bet against it. I would not bet against it. I am all in on agentic coding and vibe coding. And I think that agentic coding is the future of software development. And if you're not seeing that, I would suggest that you start to look deeper into it and look at what we've accomplished with this journey so far, and that you keep up to date with what we're doing at BridgeMind, because we are going to build different projects and things in 2026 that I think are going to shock the world and to truly prove the capabilities of agentic coding, or vibe coding, which it's commonly referred to as. But I expect that this technology and these tools and workflows are going to continue to improve. And a year from now, we are going to be working with completely different systems, because if you rewind the clock back to the start of 2025, we didn't even have some of the tools that we now use in our everyday workflows. And I expect this to continue. I expect that the people that are going to be rewarded for this technological revolution are the ones that are involved now while it's still early. Because if you don't understand these workflows, if you don't understand the skill of agent orchestration, you will be left behind. And I'm not saying that to, get you worried. I'm just saying that if you have not yet adopted agentic coding, I highly recommend that you start working with these tools and start learning these workflows, because there is a skill to it. And I believe that agentic coding is the future. With that being said, make sure you like, subscribe, and join the Discord, and I will see you in the future.